Hello and welcome to the University of Law. In today's video I've got another unboxing and review for you, and this time it is Dark Gallifrey Missy Part 3. So I only recently got round to reviewing Part 2 and here we are on Part 3 already. So let me get this open. Sometimes I don't take enough time to look and discuss the cover art, so I'm going to try and do a little bit more today, because that's part of the reason for getting the physical copy is being able to see that physical artwork, because they do such amazing work, and especially with some of the older material that they have to work with, they really do sharpen it up to look incredible. So let's get it open. Let's have a good old look. Let's look at it on the actual paper because there'll be less glare. I'm wondering whether this has used some of the smilers from The Beast Below the 11th Doctor story. I may be wrong, because it's amazing sometimes. Like I saw recently there was one and they'd used colour tones and all sorts to create this new monster where I'd assumed that maybe it was CGI, but actually they composite different elements from classic monsters to give it a Doctor Who feel. It could just be CGI. It could be that they've made it themselves, or it could be that they've compiled it, composited it. So I'm always really intrigued. If anyone knows, do let me know in the comments where that came from. But yeah, obviously we got Missy on the front. This is quite an intriguing cover. I remember when I saw it, I was quite interested in what this was and where it was going, because it felt like something a little bit different compared to what I'd kind of experienced in the story so far. So yeah, I think one of my big concerns with part 2 was the fate of the Doctor, and thankfully I was right, they did address that in here. And it was an interesting explanation. It definitely fit with the nature of the story. It wasn't using the same card they've used before to get out of a continuity error, so it was a clever way around it. I haven't fully got my head around it yet, but it's that kind of temporal story. It's quite an intriguing one. I think it will need repeat listens for me really to get my head around the story. But then again, you know, if you've paid for these stories, you want an excuse to listen to them again and again and again to you know, really savour each one. Because as I said, often with box sets, I mentioned this before, you listen to I listen to all three all at once. And actually, the good thing with Dark Gallifrey is you get one a month and you spend a bit more time on it. Maybe you have time to listen to it again, to speculate before the next one. And then having a story that then rewards re-listens, because obviously you've kind of got the gist of the story, but you then want to go back and dive in a bit deeper. It's also great when you get those stories where it does have that extra level that you can go back and find something new in. So yeah, we have got the artwork inside, some production notes in there. As I mentioned in part 2, what I did like about this is how they have a very small cast, yet every character is really well written, really well acted, really well defined, three-dimensional, but also the time travel element and the paradox element has enabled you to have, you know, a small cast really have, it really extends the impact of that through having alternate versions of different characters, having characters body swap, having characters from different timelines. It really, you know, it enables you to get a little bit more excitement, and actually you're using that smaller cast to a really great advantage. And again, I've seen that done so well across this Dark Gallifrey range, and especially the Morbius range that kicked it off. I really enjoyed how you kind of just got a bit more time with these characters, focusing on a few characters, but really giving those intimate moments where you really get to know them. So I think so far I'd say Morbius is probably still my favourite. This is probably my second favourite. And then the War Master one is my third favourite so far. And we'll see where Master goes. As I said in the last video, it'd be great to see if it's a different timeline other than the Master next time. Here we have the other releases. But yeah, my only question at this point is it still didn't feel, maybe I missed something here, it still didn't feel clear to me how this links to Dark Gallifrey. I had my suspicions, as I said in the last video, that I suspect we were on Dark Gallifrey, or the kind of dimension or existing out of time is something to do with Dark Gallifrey. Maybe we're in the same universe or multiverse as Dark Gallifrey, but it's not been confirmed yet. And I would say, obviously, we're 3 trilogies into an 8 trilogy set, and I still don't feel I really know what Dark Gallifrey is yet. But of course, we're building this story slowly, and I am confident that it will all come together. And obviously, I've already invested. I've pre-ordered the whole lot, so I'm in it for the end to see how it goes. But at this point, I've still got lots of questions, and there's that old phrase, isn't there, seeing the wood for the trees. I think I can see lots and lots and lots of trees at the moment. There's lots going on. There's loads going on, and I'm hoping at some point in the next year or so we start to see the shape of it coming together. And again, you then go back and listen. And I think this is the thing that Big Finish are doing a lot at the moment, which is they're planting things early which you actually don't notice at the time. And it's only on re-listens that you realise that these things have been there a long, long time. There's been stuff in the Eighth Doctor range, especially the Time War range, which has paid off later on. Interestingly, with the Eighth Doctor range, I have and then also with the Audacity stuff, that seems to be that there's been some references recently which we maybe weren't aware of that are going to be more prominent later. I think in particular, actually, I'm interested in the Eighth Doctor Time War range because it seems to be that Hieronymus Frondagus Dishun was taking on the appearance of old friends, but it now appears from the latest set that they're taking on the appearance of friends who met an unfortunate end. Now, we don't know how Audacity's story ends, but she's the only person who we don't have an ending for at the moment. And it looks like maybe that's foreshadowing a not very pleasant end for Audacity in that particular early Eighth Doctor range. But yeah, back to Dark Gallifrey. It's I do feel confident that when we listen to it back, I think it will start to make a lot more sense, and we'll notice things we hadn't noticed before. But at this point, it's still I'm still waiting for that moment where it all starts to click, and it might not be that it doesn't even click until the very end, and then you then go back, and whether you listen to it in release order, or order from the Doctor's perspective, or order from the Master's perspective, or even interestingly, if we listen to it from the order, because I know they've mentioned that Morbius is like a prequel and like a prologue, and the War Master is like an epilogue. So interesting to kind of, if we get an official listing order that's a bit different to release order, that might kind of help an enriched experience. But hopefully we'll be debating this for years and enjoying these and talking about them for years to come. But on that, actually, before I finish, obviously the War Master is before Missy, so obviously it's interesting that they didn't mention Dark Gallifrey, because I guess she should know already, having already been through 2 lives before, because obviously we then got Master coming up next month. So I'm guessing Dark Gallifrey wasn't mentioned, perhaps, because we know for certain that the Master knew by the time he was the War Master, so perhaps he finds out initially in Master. So again, it's building, and it's very timey-wimey, and obviously if this trilogy is anything to go by, it's going to be a very, very timey-wimey thing. But I think, especially, I've especially enjoyed the Morbius stuff, like really looking into the lore of the Time Lords, and I think Dark Gallifrey is a great way to explore areas of Doctor Who that maybe you just can't explore in the usual style of the programme. You know, the kind of Doctor Who can be anything, and it can do anything, and it can go anywhere, but there is a Doctor Who-ishness, and I think this is perhaps a more flexible format that can do things that Doctor Who can't do, and it can explore things that Doctor Who can't explore. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on this series so far? Do let me know in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Look forward to speaking to you soon.